tremendous writer, one of the most articulate, maybe the most articulate person I ever had a chance to talk with. And one of the first things Parkinson's took was his voice. So it's sad, but he was a wonderful writer and a big sci-fi guy. He introduced me to a lot of science fiction writers. And anyways, so I don't know what the question was.
No, 7 years ago. When's the last time you saw it?
It was about 5 years ago. They did a screening of this Phantasm at the Grauman's Chinese, and I was like invited to speak. And yeah, it was. I mean, it was like one thing I will say. Not a criticism of the theater here because it's good. It's great theater, but they really cranked the sound up. You know. Yeah, at Grauman's, it's like the sound was like ridiculously loud. It's like actually kind of painful.
Yeah.
Especially the Hart Bachner's, you know, when he goes crazy because he's got the Joker venom in him. That was actually really, it was like there was actually an echo in the theater, which I don't think was intentional.
Does it strike you differently as time passes between making it and when you see it again? Do you receive it differently?
Well, I think it moves still, and it began as a video, a home video, and then Eric Radomski, who was one of the producers of it, and a director. He created this opening scene with the CG,
Sort of.
So, and then an executive came over from the lot, and he saw this early footage of this Gotham City in CG, and he said, you know what? Let's put this in the theaters, and that's how it became a movie.
Oh, wow.
And that's his basic history.
Well, I think.
Oh.
Hello.
Sunglasses on.
There.
Can you still hear us? Even with
Yeah.
the lights on?
Oh, yeah.
We won't pass the mic back around. We'll just keep going this way unless somebody says they can't hear us.
And I just want to say one thing that, like, so everyone understands, like, this movie is like Alan's baby, because I was there when we had meetings about what we're gonna do, and there were several ideas pitched, and I remember Paul Dini had a great idea. Yeah, it's
And
like
all the time.
yeah, and I just remember because Paul was pitching this idea of like, and I think it became a Batman Adventures comic book, but Paul pitched this thing where the Joker is in Arkham Asylum with Harvey Dent. And you know, with Two-Face, and he keeps like picking at Harvey Dent, making him jealous of his girlfriend, his fiancée, Grace. And Bruce Wayne, being a nice buddy, is just squiring her around town and just taking care of her, and that forces, you know, the Joker and Harley, you know, team up and get him mad. And I thought, like, wow, that's a really great idea. Then he ruins it, and he like pitches his idea of this origin of the Joker, where the Joker is actually this origin, and he totally like sold me. Like, I wanted to do Paul's thing, but then once I heard Alan's pitch, I was like, sorry, Paul, this is a much better idea. It's like, and it's like as an origin of not only like, you know, this is like better than, in my opinion, this was a better story than Batman Year One. This made more sense. And also, as an origin of the Joker, it makes so much more sense that the Joker is attached to the mob. And so it's a very, once he goes insane, it's a very short step for him to want to be the ultimate gangster. So, you know, hats off to Alan.
Well, yeah, we you know, in the Batman series, and we were still doing the series. I mean, this movie was made concurrently as we were making the series, and we hadn't done a Bruce Wayne story or a Bruce Wayne girlfriend story, a romance, and I just thought that it's a movie, so let's do something that has that in it, and we fit in the origin of the Joker sort of. It happens off screen, but we know where he comes from in this version. So. that's how it happened. And it's very it's a very democratic movie in a way, because I had written a story, and I wanted to write the whole screenplay, but there was no time. And I had wonderful writers, so we just split it up. And Marty Pasco took this stuff with the cemetery. I was in the beginning. I set it up in the beginning, and then Marty's section was the cemetery and the romance starting. And then as soon as Joker came on, that was of course Paul Dini's section. And then the final section was by Michael Reeves with the explosions and everything, the whole climax. And it worked out well. And the directors had their sections. You can tell about that.
Me?
Yes.
Well, I had a hard time on the series because I got to meet Tim Curry, which was wonderful, because I did the last laugh, and I walk in, and there's Tim Curry in the booth. You know, he's going to play the Joker, and I'm like completely starstruck. You know, it's like Frankenfurter's gonna be. But anyway, it's like, so I got to work with Tim Curry, but then he was replaced by Mark Hamill, and I thought, like, oh my God, you know, it's like he was even better than Tim Curry, and Tim Curry was fantastic. And so, flash forward, we're doing series after series, and Paul Dini is coming in and pitching Joker stories to me, just because we're pals, you know, and he would just come in and say, hey, I got an idea, you know, and he would like pitch a Joker story to me. Oh, that's great, let me do it. Boyd gets to do it. Frank gets to do the Joker. Everyone else gets the Joker. Then we get the movie, and here's the Joker, and I go, damn it, you know, give me the Joker once, please. And it's actually, in my opinion, it's one of the best of the Joker stories. But I got to go to the recordings, and it was a giant revelation to actually get to see, because I'm directing the Joker sequences specifically. If you see the Joker, it's like that was my crew and that was me, and we just had a blast with it. And the other thing too about this is that I got to knock his tooth out. I didn't have to hold back. The things that you don't see in the sequence though is where things that get cut out is like, other than a lot more auto gyros like slashing the hell out of them. A lot of that got edited out just because it was just a little too much blood. And they didn't let me, I actually storyboarded where the Joker takes the Chrysler building off after he bashes Batman with it, and he takes the point, and he actually manages to stab Batman through the shoulder. Yeah.
Wow.
They didn't.
But that makes me ask, though, since you guys knew it was gonna go to home video, were you able to do a little bit more than standards and practices?
Oh no,
this
at the time, it's PG-13 now, and you've seen worse.
Right.
But at the time, this was, you know, people were outraged about how violent it was, you know.
Didn't it get PG?
Yeah, it was PG.
Mm-hmm.
It got a PG.
Yep.
It would get an R today. Do you know why?
Smoking.
Right.
Mhm.
Smoking.
Yeah.
It's an automatic R.
Well, on Leather Wings, the Batman
Yeah.
episode that I wrote,
Yeah.
Batman bleeds, right? And standards and practices came back and said, geez, no more of that. No more bleeding,
Yeah, well,
right?
we had arguments with them, and the arguments that Bruce and I gave to broadcast standards over the phone, Bruce goes, get here, you gotta talk to these guys with, you know, I need help. And we convinced them, it's like, no, it's a big monster. And if Batman isn't beat up at the end, if he isn't at least bleeding a little bit, it's like, you know, that's a bad message for kids. You know, I mean, look, he just smashed into a wall.
And you won't bleed so you gotta teach the kids.
So you gotta teach the kids that you don't do this kind of activity because you're gonna end up bleeding.
Are there questions?
Yeah.
I have a question. Who pitched the idea to have it come back as a connection for the Batman Beyond series?
Ooh.
Batman, in what way? I'm not sure.
Well, at the end of Justice League Unlimited, they reused the Phantasm, but it's Amanda Waller instead. Is that right? Or is it Barbara?
I don't know.
I don't remember, but they get the DNA.
I actually think that was probably some meeting where people got together and said, hey, we got this design, let's reuse it. It was probably that simple.
Is this about Batman Beyond having the same DNA as
Yes,
Bruce Wayne?
it's the prologue episode of Justice League Unlimited.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't work on Justice League,
Yeah.
which I'm sorry to say because everybody loves it, and it's fine. But Bruce and I have had talks about this, and it was his idea, I think, because I don't agree with it. I don't think Batman Beyond or Batman period should have special genes or special anything. I think he's the most democratic superhero. Anybody can become Batman if you've got the will and you've got the bad situation that makes that will iron. You can become Batman. So we disagree on that. But he was the one who, you know how an idea is like a worm in your head. You gotta get up. That was playing in his head for a long time.
Oh, okay.
Now, alluding to that, I've noticed that you versus Bruce, you have a lot better talent at telling self-contained stories that don't necessarily care if they tie into continuity. Where I've noticed in Bruce Timm's work, he really likes to try to tie everything together, and that it needs to be a continuation of what's been done before. Are those kind of conflicting styles that you guys had working together on the show?
I can't say that, but you're right. I think I don't care that much for continuity. I'd rather, if it's good stories coming up and it's a little off from stuff, I'm fine with going that direction. But that's not to say that's good. I don't know.
Well, I'm not saying everybody has their preference, and I just wanted to say that for as much as the great storyteller Alan Moore gets for telling what everybody believes is the definitive Joker origin story in The Killing Joke, I honestly don't think that you get enough credit for this story having a solid origin story for the Joker that is very much believable, in my
absolutely.
opinion, just in the greatest scheme of things.
And to give Alan more credit, he's basically doing like just a standalone horror story.
Yes.
Yes.
And it was never intended to be, and he said it himself, I'm not making this up, but it was never intended to be the DC universe, this version, these.
Oh, and he
events
hates the
happen.
story now, which makes me so sad because I
Yeah,
love it.
it's great.
Yeah.
You mean the
Alan Moore.
Oh, Alan Moore.
Yeah, Alan
Yeah.
Moore hates The Killing Joke now.
Yeah.
After everything that's come after it, he's like, I just wanted to tell a story.
It's like Barbara Gordon becoming Oracle. I'll never agree with that.
Yeah.
I just go, she could have recovered.
Yeah.
She just got shot. It's like, Batgirl gets beat up, wounded, all sorts of stuff happens to her. And it's like, oh, come on. It's like, please.
Yeah.
Although lately, in the continuity of, it's not in the continuity, but it was the latest comics, like, I forget the name of it, but it was like the one with the Catwoman, where she gets out of prison and stuff.
Mhm. Yeah.
Where that Barbara Gordon is like very well written. I'm not saying that there's not good writing,
Yes,
but yeah, it's like,
I agree.
The Killing Joke's a tough story.
yeah.
And I remember, it took me, 3 times I started it and stopped. And I stopped when Gordon's in a leash situation.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh my gosh. And I'm talking about, I started it 1 year, and 3 years later, I started it again. And finally, we were gonna make this as a video, and I had to read the whole thing. So, but it's a tough story. I mean, if you read between the lines, worse things are going on
Yes.
Yeah.
all the way along, all the way around. And that story makes no sense to me unless Batman goes nuts and Batman kills him. It just doesn't. There's no reason for that. What have we been through if this does not happen? That's me. Sorry.
Do either one of you have any thoughts on Tom King bringing the Phantasm character into the mainstream, or at least the Black Label universe and the
Well-
Batman and Catwoman series?
I didn't know anything about it.
Good.
Was it
Good.
Good.
I just think it's a bad idea.
Okay.
That's all. It's like, there's so much, well, you know, it's Hollywood. It's like, do we really need a live action Lion King? No. Do we need Aladdin? No. It's like, it's like they're just diving in and grabbing things and putting them in their continuity. In my opinion. And I'm not very happy about it, you know. It's like everyone wants to. The problem I have with it is that so much of it, they want to own this, you know. And Alan owns this, you know.
It's like, we all own it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the miniature city at the end, I just want everyone to know, it's like, you know, God rest his soul, Michael Reeves. I would always make him mad because I would do things. And the end of the movie was very typical of Dick Sprang. It was like a Dick Sprang ending when you get to the city. And it's all about the giant things, the giant buildings. And I just went, well, I went to the '64 World's Fair when I was 6 years old. And the thing that I remembered was the miniature city of tomorrow. And when I was a kid, I actually tried to get out of that car because I wanted to go walking around in that city. And, you know, my parents, of course, didn't let me. But that
I never heard that story. That's wild. Well, and you know that.
I just wanted to do the miniature city. I wanted like Batman and the Joker to be like Godzilla and King Kong.
I mean, there's a whole World's Fair obsession that Bruce has that we had, even when we were young together. There was that period where Yesterday's Tomorrows and all those the visual futurists kind of got really popular, you know, and that's so informed the series in general. But boy, it really informs this movie. It's just fantastic. I'd forgotten about that. Other question? Yeah.
What advice would you have for the next generation of people that want to get into the entertainment industry?
Well, if you're a writer, you're right. You have samples of your writing, and that's the best way to get in and get it to people. And
If you can win a contest, and there are a lot of good contests out there, like Austin, especially Austin, and the Austin Film Festival in October is totally geared towards screenwriters, and there's tons of managers and there's lots of access there. But you know, if you can win one of those or place in one of the more prestigious contests, then the people in Hollywood are paying attention to who those winners are and trying to get their, you know, they're keeping their eyes on young writers coming up. Because it used to be in the old days when I was a long time ago, you know, it used to be that the writers, we would write scripts and the studios would want original scripts and would buy original scripts. And now they kind of want to tell the writers what the writers need to do, but they still need to read samples, original samples to kind of go, oh, that's what this person's good at. That's what they got chops. And so we have something kind of similar to that. Maybe we bring them in and we hire them to do that. So.
Yeah, and if you're an artist, if you want to be a cartoonist, if you want to be an artist, learn, yes, there's all the wonderful things, there's Storyboard Pro, there's Photoshop, there's all these great things, great tools that you have to learn. But if you go to art school, learn to draw first, traditionally, like Rembrandt taught, you know? It's like traditional, pencil, paper, life drawing, learn to draw everything, you know, learn perspective, become a master of perspective. And then that makes like all the storyboarding and all of the tools that have vectors and things, and then all of a sudden drawing becomes child's play, and the people can really draw. Don't go to the modern tools first. That's just my take.
Were there any other characters that you guys were thinking about putting into the movie that didn't make the cut? I heard you guys talk about Harley and Two-Face, but any other characters?
no, I just don't think we did. It was supposed to be more of a gangster story, but I'll tell you, when the Joker shows up, thank God you're there.
It does sort of add this, it just kind of throws gas on the fire, doesn't it?
Yeah, Bob Daly and Terry Simmel were the heads of Warner Bros. And I sat in a room like this with them, and we watch a movie. They have to see everything that goes out under their name, and we when Joker came out, you could see them start to smile and look at each other. Yeah. You know, by the way, he teaches writing, so listen to him. He's also a pilot for Batman the Animated Series.
And was lucky to have this guy direct all the ones that I wrote.
Yeah.
And writing, I have to say that you think you're doing great as a writer, and then he gets a hold of it, and all this amazing stuff happens, you know, and you just kind of, you can sort of don't have to tell anybody that I didn't write that. But
Well, no, it's like, but honest to God, I was not sold on Batman when I got, you know, I had just finished, I was doing comics, and I was very happy. I was doing the Buck Rogers comic for TSR. I was happy doing that. I just left Disney Features. I was working on Lion King and Treasure Planet development. So, you know, I was like, I'm a snob. And then I hear that Warner Brothers is going to do a Batman. I'm like, well, they just did Tiny Toons, so Super Friends, here we come again. You know? So then I go and I interview with Bruce, and he gives me this script. And it's like, you gotta be kidding me. And I'm going through it, and it's like, it's got the transformation sequence. It's got like a werewolf transformation sequence for Man-Bat. And I'm like, from that moment on, when I read that script, I'm like, just sign me up, I'm done. I'm on board. But yeah, that was so much fun.
you know, we were doing stuff before CGI, right? We were doing stuff in Batman the Animated Series that was like, if we can imagine it, we can do it, right? And that was really ahead of that kind of notion. There's stuff in Batman the Animated Series that, yes, now you have seen it in other movies and with, you know, live action through CGI, but we were thinking really three-dimensionally and scale. And this movie has incredible scale. I just love it. Those crazy, some of those are probably big crazy Ted Blackman backgrounds, right?
Oh yeah, except the Miniature City.
Right.
Those are off of my storyboard. Even the WB on the building.
Yeah,
I love it.
They almost called a retake, and I had to. Luckily, I was in the editing bay because they were starting to cut out. Oh no, there's a mistake. The Chrysler building's moving. He's wearing it as a hat. What? What? Just go to the next seat. See? Oh yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. Anyway, so.
Yeah, go ahead.
Was there any inspiration, either intentionally or unintentionally, for the Phantasm from Mike W. Barr's The Reaper character from Batman Year 2? And I'm asking only because the physical similarities are rather striking. The characters themselves are not that close together.
Not for me. Maybe Bruce might have been.
I think it was more than Neil Adams.
I'll tell you, for me, it was Mysterio. That's where I was coming from Spider-Man's Mysterio. I thought it'd be interesting to have this cloudy guy disappear and come back. So that's where that villain started for me. Talking about just the movie, Shirley Walker did the music for the movie, and she's passed away. And it's a full orchestra. All the episodes we did of Batman had a full orchestra. You don't get that today. And she was a tremendous asset to Batman the Animated Series and this movie, particularly this movie. The Gregorian chant that you hear at parts of this movie are our names and other people's names backwards.
Oh,
So
wow.
if you're listening, it's the credits backwards being sung. And she was
Oh,
just
wow.
as clever as could be. She was going to do one of the rap movie. What's the band? One of the band.
Oh, Willard.
Oh yeah, Willard.
Willard. She was doing one of the Willard movies. And I think she did, but her idea was she wanted to take the worst three instruments and put them together for the soundtrack. And it was the accordion and the banjo and the bagpipe. I guess she couldn't do it. I guess they didn't agree with her. But I've always thought, oh my gosh, what would that have sounded like with Shirley Walker?
Well, she was a really famous orchestrator, right? And
Yes.
so a lot of times you'll see, somebody credited as, musical score by X. Well, but what you don't realize is that what's really happening is the orchestrator is the one who's completely realizing what may or be maybe 4 or 5 melody lines that kind of comprise the basic score, but it's that orchestrator who comes in and creates that soundscape, and she was very well known for that, right?
Yes. Just tremendous. Just tremendous.
Yeah. No, it's like, I just wanted to say, just hold a
Are
second.
you good?
That, I've said this story at different times, but the wonderful thing about Shirley was, she would come into the office all excited, and just, pitch you, like, kind of her ideas and stuff. One day I'm there, and Bruce comes into my office, and he goes, come on, we gotta go down to the lodge. Shirley wants you and me to go down there. And this was for, Two-Face, the first episode of Two-Face, the footage had come in. Okay, she just wants, she wants to pitch something to us. And so we drive down there, together, and we walk in. And I walk into this, giant soundstage kind of place, and there's a screen along the back wall. And she goes, oh good, you're here, okay. Everyone sit down. I'm looking, there's like 35, 60-piece orchestra stretched out, like Hollywood Bowl. And all of a sudden, Two-Face goes on. He says, "Look, I just want your opinion. I'm trying to get something here." And music is rolling. All of a sudden, she's like conducting, and something that I directed is up on the wall, and I'm sitting there like this, and Bruce is like this, and it comes to this giant crescendo, boom! And she turns around. So, what did you think? And it's like, I'm like, my mouth, I felt my mouth was open. It was hanging open. And I was like, it's the most wonderful thing I've seen in my life. She said, no, you don't understand. I'm having trouble. It's like, it was really, if you ever get a chance, and I don't know how many people get that, but it's like, I've been blessed because several times I've gotten to see stuff that I've directed or things that I've actually drawn with an orchestra spread out, and just oboes and violins and cellos, like playing music to what I just drew. So anyway, that's one of the most wonderful things about working in animation in my experience. And seeing Mark Hamill perform the Joker live. I'm sorry that you guys never got to see that. It's fantastic. And what's even better is Arlene Sorkin and Mark Hamill performing together face to face. That's really, it's one of the most wonderful things.
So they did often have multiple actors in the rooms at the same time.
Mostly.
Yeah, no, that's Andrea,
Yeah.
and that's something that I really, Andrea and Ginny McSwain, the only two people that would get everyone into the room together, all of the actors, and it really helped because the actors they play off of each other.
It's like a radio play.
Yeah, especially Kevin Costner. Kevin Costner, what am I saying? Kevin
Conroy.
Especially Kevin Conroy. It's like, my God, he was like, how he would act with another actor was really wonderful. Sorry.
No, you're good. Now, to go on that note, I mean, I heard that Mark Hamill was the only one initially that wouldn't sit when he was recording. He would physically act out all of his lines,
Oh, yeah.
and that further and of course
Oh, yeah.
Andrea encouraged, and then that motivated all the other actors to similarly interact with each other. But my question was going to be for Kevin. I promise it's my last one for today. I'll bug you more tomorrow. But I noticed you mentioned transformation sequence, especially on Leather Wings, and of course, Feet of Clay Part 2, you directed, and that sequence is masterful. I'm serious. Just the transformation is insane. The animation company, I can't imagine what those storyboards looked like. But I noticed, is it coincidental that you were the director with episodes that include transformations like that? Is that a coincidence, or is that something they trusted you more so with
Probably.
the other ones?
Probably.
I remember, it's like,
Because you didn't direct Part 1, but Part 2 that has that insane scene with the transformation was
Um,
yours, and I just thought that was interesting.
I think Bruce. I mean,
Bruce liked him.
Yeah. So I was given that one, and I think it was specifically because I was talking to Alan about this a little earlier today. But that was we just had a meeting where we're going over budget. The budgets are, it's like we gotta watch out. We gotta simplify the animation. We gotta get it down. This comes from up on high. And so, we're killing the studios overseas. It's like, it's not fair. Okay. And then I get, and then Bruce says, okay. And after that meeting, it's like, here's your script. And I'm like, are you guys kidding me? It's like, are you kidding me? It's like, and I was supposed to originally get ACOM ACOM was on the list to do my next episode. And Bruce, I don't know if you had anything to do with that, Alan, but
Maybe, because at TMS I loved.
Yeah.
I loved TMS.
and
Yeah,
everyone
they were
said
phenomenal.
switched that and said, no, this has gotta go to TMS, just reading the script. And I changed the hell out of the script, because there were certain things that just when it came to the transformation and his powers, establishing what Clayface could do,
Yeah.
and the final, I did a lot of the original Clayface manifesting, like in the hospital sequence and all that.
Yeah.
But I gotta give Mike Gogan credit, because I gave him, he's such a good board artist, he's such a good designer, that I gave him all the stuff in the sound studio in the third act.
Yes.
That's
oh
Mike
my
Gogan,
gosh.
and because he can draw, his boards were so solid that he could actually figure out, and shamefully, I made him, just do what you do, and it's like, but just work it out, do all the key poses so the animators don't have to think too much,
Right.
and I had no right to expect an overseas studio to do that. And TMS knocked it out of the park.
Oh, it
And
was
that
so
show that-
fluid and seamless. It was amazing.
That show came back 2 weeks early, and we go watch it on a Moviola, which is something that doesn't exist anymore. But we're watching the film on the Moviola with the editor, and we just had 2 retakes.
Wow.
So pretty much what you see in Feet of Clay Part 2 is actually the work print.
Wow.
That's TMS. They just had so much pride that they just knocked it out of the park. And I think they pulled people who worked on Akira, they just pulled them in from different places.
Bruce called me after you guys watched that, and he was so excited about that episode and about he's like, I can't wait till you see this stuff. It's so amazing.
It was amazing.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
And I mean, there are scenes in that, just telling you a little bit, but there's scenes in that where it takes place in the studio where there's monitors, and there's like a dozen monitors and have the different faces in the background, and they're all moving. And in front of this is this Clayface guy who's changing. It's shockingly a production nightmare, and it comes off just beautifully. It's just
Right after you
amazing.
got scolded about the budget, right?
Right.
Tell
Me
them
specifically.
Tell them to suck it and sell more toys, right? That's what they get the money from, right?
And I'm gonna take absolute credit for one thing in that, Batman in Disguise. He's a janitor. All he did was pull on a ball cap.
Yeah.
It's like, no one's looking at the janitor.
Hey.
I mean, Sherlock Holmes would do that kind of stuff, where it's like, all he does is he puts on a cap and acts the part.
He just, I'll never forget, we did the Two-Face story, and we wanted to suggest Two-Face was coming. And there was a scene in the psychiatrist's office, Harvey Dent's talking, and then there's a lightning, and there's a lightning, suddenly this guy puts in Two-Face in black and white, sort of, and then it goes away, and he's back to Harvey Dent. And this is the kind of thinking this guy does, which is just amazing.
Yeah, but that's I mean, it's like I'm trapped. It's like I can't do anything else but cartoons.
Oh.
It's like, I mean, I can do other things, but but yeah, I enjoy doing that kind of stuff. And if you'll notice, I noticed in this one, I keep thinking it's like I'll watch shows like that I really had a big hand in, like Showdown and Demon's Quest Part 1 and 2 and this, and I'm like, God damn, I do a lot of explosions. I do a lot of exploding endings to shows, you know. And I'm like, it's a
rich American tradition.
Yeah, but I think it's like, well, you know, it goes back to the movies that I really enjoyed watching, you know, like Where Eagles Dare and stuff like that. But it's like, maybe I think I just enjoy drawing blowing shit up.
But then, you know, the thing that's so interesting about this show that always strikes me in this movie, I was noticing it, and I watch whenever I watch, you know, other episodes of the animated series, that like they're real movies. Like if it was being shot on a soundstage with the crew, you'd be like, oh yeah, that's that shot, and we've gone back to that shot, and now we've moved the shot, and it's like there's never anything wasted, and it's always really cinematic kind of storytelling, old traditional classic Hollywood storytelling.
Yeah.
Well, kind of relating to what you were just saying, that tradition is actually with Batman the Animated Series continues. And you have that feel of, you know, you can hear Kevin and everybody's voices in your head while you're reading these books. And it's phenomenal.
Well, thank you very much. This is a comic book that Paul Dini and I have been writing for about 3 years. So we had a great time. And it's a continuation, sort of, but we sort of have gone our own ways a little bit on it.
Yeah, but still you have that overall feeling of it's a, you know, you're still, instead of watching it, you're actually reading it and you feel a part of it.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's the only comic I bought.
You and then you. Yeah.
Me first?
Yeah. You go first.
So I was born in '86, and I remember watching the show when it first came out, and I started having nightmares all the time. No correlation whatsoever. You know, I was just loved the show. But as my mom one day, she watched the Two-Face episode, and she's like, "That's why you're having nightmares." And I told her, I was like, "I'm not stopping watching the show." And I eventually got used to it, and now I love horror. It's like my favorite thing in the world besides Batman the Animated Series. And you know, it took me a while to realize that the show is so good because it's kind of scary. You know, you've got Feet of Clay with the transformation of ribbons of clay moving all over the place, and Heart of Steel. That's terrifying. It's like Body Snatchers. Everybody's out
Lots
to
of
get you.
explosions at the end.
Just the best.
Horror movies and crime movies. You know.
It's like Heart of Steel is one that really bugs me because I really wanted the animation to be better, but I guess people don't really think about it. I mean, there's things about the animation that make me cringe, but when I was doing storyboards and I was, you know, working with other board artists on that, it was really hard for me not to jump ahead and do the part where Randa the robot gets crushed. You know, because I just wanted to know, and then Batman gets grabbed from behind, and you see like this beautiful woman's actually been torn in half, and she's actually this hideous monster.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I think what's great though is that the story is so good, even if the art isn't always maybe up to your standard, it's still great. It all works together to make something that's beautiful. And the music, the voices, everything.
It was a show done under Fox Children's programming, but it was a show that was televised at 3:30, so we could have our guns and our fights and our punches and do things that were impactful. And I didn't mean to, we didn't mean to scare you, but
I did.
So
I did. Hitchcock did it to me.
Right.
You know, Stanley
The
Kubrick.
cycle continues.
Yeah, it's just name the director. It's like Twilight Zone scared the living snot out of me.
Yeah.
Outer Limits, I'd watch like through the around the kitchen door, so I could make a quick escape. So yeah, it's intentional.
Speaking of scaring kids, were there any ideas that you wanted to do but you never got the chance to, for like Batman or a show or a movie?
Good God.
no, we wanted to do a sort of a Dracula story with Nocturne, character named Nocturne, but we couldn't have lights on the neck. So that's what I went by. And then we had a script written, which was followed the gun that killed Batman's parents from the time it was made to the horrible things that happened with it, including that, to the time Batman melted it down. Found it, melted it down.
That was Tom Ruger.
That was Tom Ruger's series.
Yeah.
And,
That was actually one of the first scripts.
yes, and it was a script that, one of the only scripts that exists, because a lot of the scripts just got destroyed somehow. They got all erased, all these scripts. That one's people saved early on, and you can see it, I think, on the internet. You can read it on the internet. It's called what?
I think it's called The Gun.
I'm not sure, Gun Story or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
There may even have been a springboard for that. It sounds familiar. It sounds like it got knocked around maybe in the very early stages when
Yeah.
we were writing all those one paragraph springboards of different ideas.
Well,
Yeah, the writer's guide that we wrote is out there on the internet too. You can see that Paul and Bruce.
there's a lot of things, a lot of things from Pantheon. You know, the Batman that didn't get done, you know, while I was there anyway.
Yeah. We got away with some things. We had the story about an invisible man.
Yeah.
That was, it's one of those stories I called up broadcast centers and said, here's what we're going to do. It's informed them. And it's a story about a man who was invisible, but he was, the underlying thing was he was a wife beater. And so he couldn't see his daughter and he couldn't see his ex-wife. And so when he would visit them at night, because he wanted to see his little girl, he would bring the little girl stuff that he stole. And in the end, he tried to take the girl away. And Batman saved her. And she, the girl thought this creature was a special friend, not realizing who he was. And I just like the whole theme of it. I mean, you never see a story like that in animation. And so that was one that was iffy for a while.
Dan Reba did a great job on that one too. That was one of the things where I have a healthy jealousy of really good directors. I'm really mad at them for doing such a good job. But like Eric, but that was one of them. Fear No Evil was like so well done. It's probably the best script Marty Pasco wrote too.
Yeah, see no evil.
See No Evil, sorry. See No Evil.
Yeah, probably was.
Anyway.
How long are we going? One more?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one.
I was just curious, going off of that, what's your favorite one you didn't direct?
Who, me?
I
Yeah.
we direct.
Yeah.
What was my favorite one that I did not direct?
Yeah.
That's actually pretty easy. Baby Doll. I cry.
Oh.
I still cry when I see the ending of that. It's like, again, Dan Reba, like someone I've known since I first started in animation. And we've known each other, we worked on all sorts of shows together and stuff. And it's like, there's one thing, it's like, when we worked together for the most part, especially at the beginning of Batman, we were all part of the team, me, Brad Rader, and Dan, and Mike Gogan. And, when I, see Dan at some gathering or whatever, I go, "You son of a bitch! How dare you do that?" Yeah, I know. Isn't it great? Came out too. He does the same thing to me. But yeah, no, Baby Doll, I would say.
All right, you guys want to sign some stuff? What's next?
Okay. And I just, real quick, thank you both for coming into town.
Yes.
And thank you, James, with Heroic Fine Art. Without him, this wouldn't be possible. He's in booth 100 tomorrow, along with Alan and Kevin. So please stop by, visit his store, visit his booth, and buy some stuff. And then if we're pretty good to sign? for all of it?
Yeah, sure.
All right.
Awesome.
As long as there's not a million people outside.
No.
No.